All right, we'll finish up this chapter on the Middle Ages with page 4. So the previous page at the end we had mentioned the Duke of Normandy also claiming a right to rule. So his name was actually William the Conqueror, and he was the Duke of Normandy, who defeated the Saxons at the Battle of Hastings, and then he became the King of England. Kings that followed William strengthened unity in England by making changes in the English legal system, and we'll talk about some of those on the next one. Norman and Anglo-Saxon became what we know as the English language today. Okay, so common law, this was a system of law common to all of England, and it was based on previous royal court decisions. This was a much fairer system, and it was the foundation of the English legal system that we know today. So again, this was common to all of England. Now, again, I referenced the movie Ivanhoe that we watched. When Ivanhoe threw down his glove and challenged the decision or the judgment of the tribunal, Prince John asked the guy next to him, he said, "Tell me if this is mandatory upon the court." And he said, "Yes, it is. It cannot be overturned by common or canon law." I don't have canon law here, but canon law refers to the church. So they are laws of the church. Okay, a grand jury, citizens authorized to determine if a person should be charged with a crime. So our jury system that we know today is starting to take shape. So when you go to a grand jury, that's it. They're deciding, is there enough evidence to charge this person with a crime? If not, then there's no court case and you're free to go. Okay. So then a trial jury, if they decide, okay, yes, there is enough evidence, this should go to trial, then the trial jury hands down a decision following the trial or the court case. So right now we have typically 12 jurors, and those numbers are definite and on purpose. So if it's undecided, then it's called a hung jury. 6 that say you're guilty and 6 say you're not guilty. If it's a majority, one way or the other, then that decision is final. Now today in our country we have Supreme Court justices, and there are 9 of those. And the reason there's 9 is so there's not a tie, because they're the highest court in the land. And so that if you go to the Supreme Court, a decision is going to be made. So at this time, power of the monarch grew, then declined with Henry II, and there was a dispute that arose over his throne between Richard and John. And of course, that's kind of the names, Prince John and King Richard from the Robin Hood story. Magna Carta means Great Charter. It was a document agreed to by King John of England that recognized barons' rights and privileges. So the Magna Carta is also the foundation of the British and American liberties that we have and enjoy. Originally to protect the nobles, but there were 2 or 3 principles, that applied to others. 1, taxation only with representation. 2nd was the right to trial, and 3rd, limits on power. So we don't have an absolute monarch, we don't have an absolute leader. They can't just go unchecked. Votes and things have to be taken on some of those decisions. Oh, I think I went too many. Okay. So Parliament was an official group of representatives, eventually split into 2 groups. This is Parliament House in England. These pictures kind of show how it worked. They got this table here, people on both sides, and then the person in the middle was kind of directing and using parliamentary procedure. That's where that name comes from, parliamentary procedure. So the two groups were the House of Lords, which was made up of bishops and great nobles, and then the House of Commons, lesser landowners, knights, and the townspeople made up those two groups. So you have the nobility group and the common man group. Limited monarchy is a government in which limits are set on the ruler's power. And I usually mention at this time how there's another unit we'll talk about later on, I think after the next one. But it deals with the English Civil War and how they have this debate and discussion and war eventually over who has more power. Is it Parliament or the King? So then we have an absolute monarch or monarchy, and that's a government in which the ruler has complete power. Whatever they say goes, and if it's not done, then the military is there to support him and make sure that it gets done. Then we have duchies. These are lands ruled by dukes, especially in the country of Germany, and it was formed from the collapse of Charlemagne's empire. So again, how the countries of Europe came to be formed. I know even now there's still changes and things going on, but over time those smaller groups became larger countries. You can see on the map here of Europe these small political groups, and again, eventually a lot of those grouped together to form countries, and some of them eventually just stayed small countries. Okay, cardinals. This was the group of leading clergymen who would choose the Pope, and we talked about this before, how the Pope is chosen. They take a vote, and if the vote is not successful, then they will take those papers and burn them, and then I think they put something over it and black smoke comes out. If their vote is successful and they have chosen a new Pope, then they burn those papers with a chemical on it that produces a white smoke, and that tells the people, it signifies there in the Vatican that the Pope has been chosen, and within, I don't know, 30 minutes or so, he will come out on the balcony and address the people for the first time as the Pope. The term depose means to remove a king or noble from the throne. This is done against their will. They don't want this, but you're forcing them out. There's another term called, now I'm drawing a blank, where you abdicate. If you abdicate, that means you voluntarily give up the throne. Excommunicate. This is to expel someone from the church. They've probably gone against particular teaching and they're in violation. They've been asked or warned, or it's severe enough that they just immediately take action and you're removed from the church. Some religions have a lesser punishment where you're not excommunicated, but you might have some other kind of discipline. You might, for example, there's one called like a disfellowshipment or something, where you're not excommunicated, you can still attend church, but you're not allowed to do or participate in certain sacraments, if you will. Okay? The term heresy, holding of beliefs the church considered to be wrong, and if you are found in violation, you're considered to be a heretic, and the punishment is to be burnt at the stake. This would be terrible in my opinion. So they have a pile of wood, there's a beam or a stake of some kind, and you're tied to it, and then they just light it on fire. Again, the movie Ivanhoe is referenced here. Rebecca at the end, there's a pile of wood waiting. If Ivanhoe lost, then she would be burnt at the stake. But he won and defended her honor, and she was allowed to go free. The Inquisition, so a church court to search for and punish heretics. So they actively searched for people that were in violation, and I think they really wanted to make examples of people by having these inquisitions. And finally, the Crusades, Christians in Europe seeking to regain the Holy Land from Muslim Turks. I believe there were 5 different crusades, at least 4, but I thought there was 5, that went out and they tried to, again, just secure that land for Christianity. There was even a children's crusade, which I really don't understand why that happened. Why would you as a parent allow your child to go? I mean, I guess religious fervor was really important, but anyway, this one ended in disaster. They were captured, some were killed, some were sold into slavery. It was not a good thing, not a good idea. And that should conclude our chapter on the Middle Ages. Thank you.